Reading is fun and math is great, but now it's time for art with Miss Kate.
Thank you. Buenos dias, artistas. Hello, artists. Today, Emmylou the art dog and I are going to teach you about illustration. Illustration is when you add an image or a picture to words. You can illustrate a song, you can illustrate a poem, you can illustrate a saying, you can illustrate a book. And I'm going to show you all of those actually today. So here, in the summer, I heard What to the Slave is the 4th of July by Frederick Douglass. And what I heard specifically was a performance by his great, I believe, grandchildren or descendants. And they memorized his speech and performed it. Now, I couldn't fit the whole speech on a canvas, so I fit the part that I thought was still most relevant right now in our country. Okay, so that's what this one is. And I'm going to put a link to this speech in today's lesson in case you choose to illustrate that particular speech. Then I decided to work together with Miss Shalone because art and music go together really often. So here I illustrated Justice for All by the Real Young Prodigies, and that's a song that 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders are learning in music right now. So that's my illustration of that song, and I will include a link to that song. And if you choose to illustrate that song, your illustration doesn't have to look anything like mine. Just as if you choose to illustrate the Frederick Douglass speech, yours doesn't have to look anything like mine. Then I illustrated the song Freedom by Pharrell because you are also learning that song in music. That one is right here, okay? And again, if you choose that song, I will provide a link. Your illustration might not look anything like mine. Because you're the artist, you can interpret the words that you're illustrating, and you can make your illustration or your picture be how you want it to be. So now I've shown you an illustration to a speech, 2 illustrations to songs. I would like to draw your attention to an illustration for a book. Here I have a book called The Jabberwocky. That's actually a poem by Lewis Carroll. And I illustrated that with some of the creatures that are in the book. And the poem is actually illustrated by Graham Base. And my drawing here is inspired by Graham Base, and that one's finished. Here, I did one of the creatures from my imagination, and I did not color it in. It is not finished. So that's illustrating a book. What if you want to illustrate an expression or a saying? There's a saying, what do you expect from a pig but a grunt? And so here I illustrated that. Maybe you want to illustrate it's raining cats and dogs. Maybe you want to illustrate a penny saved is a penny earned. There's all kinds of illustrations that can be, there's all kinds of sayings that can be illustrated if that's what interests you. Here I'm going to demonstrate by illustrating the very famous Legend of John Henry. Now this book is a beautiful book. It is very long though, so I'm just going to page through it so you can see the wonderful illustrations, and then I'm going to illustrate it for you, very simply. And as always, when we do our art at home, we can use whatever supplies we have, whatever supplies we think would work best for our project. You can always decide that yourself. Thus far, I've shown you paint, I've shown you collage, I've shown you marker, Sharpie, and colored pencil. So this is a wonderful, wonderful poem, and I really like it. And now I'm going to illustrate it very simply because I don't think art should be stressful or intimidating. It should be what you can do in your own style with your own artistic voice. So here we go. I did the pencil ahead of time, and I know you can't see pencil in the film, so I am going to go over it with Sharpie. Does that mean you have to go over all of your pencil with Sharpie? No. I just want you to be able to see this, so that's why I'm doing it. You don't have to, all right? And if you don't want to illustrate any of the songs you're learning from Miss Shalone, or a saying, maybe there's a book you want to illustrate, you can decide what you illustrate for this unit. But I am going to include links in case they appeal to you and you wish to illustrate them. I'm going to let you decide if you want to choose a link or choose something on your own. So I'm going to do the sledgehammer with gray because they are metal, and metal's often gray. Not all metal, but I think probably the head of many sledgehammers is gray, or perhaps rusty, a reddish brown. I'm going to choose a gray. And I'm going to do, I just made a mistake here, so watch what I do. I just made the top of my hammer bigger, so now it doesn't look like a mistake anymore, okay? And I'm going to do John Henry's Hands brown. And I want the handle of the sledgehammer to stand out a little, so I'm going to make that a peach color, otherwise it'll blend in too much. Or I could use a light brown with a colored pencil too. That would work. So here's John Henry's hands. And then I'm going to do the background with paint stick. That doesn't mean you have to, but that's faster. I try to keep my lessons short if I can, because I don't want you to be bored and I don't want my movies to be really, really long, okay? And take up a lot of your time. But you don't have to use paint stick. For your background, you can use whatever you want. And part of the reason I keep saying this is I just don't know what art supplies you have in your house. And I want everybody to be able to do my projects, so that's why I let you choose. I'm doing the nails kind of a brownish, creamish. And now I'm going to do my background. And I'm going to do my background blue for the sky. Okay. And there will be links for the Frederick Douglass speech, links for the 2 songs, and a link for the John Henry poem, if you choose to use those things. If you would rather illustrate something else, you may. You're the artist. You're the one who gets to decide what you want to illustrate. This is why I like paint stick. It does work well for demonstrations because it's quick. Now, we're going to do a little pretending. Think back before we shut down in March. I always pretended I was done with my demos when I wasn't, so you would have more time. So let's do that now. Let's pretend I also colored in all that part blue. Alright? I miss you guys. Happy illustrating. If you feel like it, send me a picture of your illustration in Seesaw. But you don't have to. If that feels stressful, don't do it. I don't ever want art to be stressful. Miss you. Bye-bye.